Welcome, fellow sovereign individuals, new and old. And I'm going to do a quick freestyle rap. Ready? Intergalactic sovereign space badgers community call discussing what matters here and after. Come talk with me. Cast an on-chain vote in the Bitocracy. Open forum debating like I'm Socrates. Send Bitcoin between astral colonies. Centralized banks, they be robbing me. I've got to preserve my sovereignty. We got a tech lead, her name's Ororo, master architect in the GitHub dojo. Yago the dude showing up and showing down, smuggled gold from a South African town. Have a shot of whiskey or Hennessy and earn some fees when you stake SOV, DeFi Bitcoin on proof of work. Stay sovereign all across the universe. There's your rap intro. Nice. Feel free to clap if you want.
I thought you were joking when you said you were going to rap. Then when I realized that you weren't joking, I was horrified. And now I'm still horrified. But I think that was amazing.
Okay, awesome. So welcome, fellow sovereign individuals, new and old, traders, Bitcoiners, developers, DeFi enthusiasts, memers. We're here because we are early participants of Sovryn, a DeFi platform secured by Bitcoin proof of work. We are a newly forming governing body that will guide the future of the Sovryn protocol, and the execution is well underway. So whether you hold SOV, CSOV, or no SOV, your presence and your voice are important to the development of our Bitocracy. The first on-chain proposals for our Bitocracy have been implemented, and the SOV stakeholders are shaping the early launch of SOV as the token releases to the market. So we are seeing proposals that go beyond the token launch and address newer issues and ideas such as the security of the Sovryn protocol. And through utilizing the SOV token in our governing body, we aim to deliver an easy-to-use DeFi platform that is native to Bitcoin, secured by Bitcoin, enabling and protecting your financial sovereignty. So thank you for joining us here. Thank you for sharing in this mission. And the rules are, if you're not speaking, please mute yourself. If you'd like to speak, please toggle the mute button back and forth to get our attention. If that doesn't work, just feel free to politely jump into the conversation. So I'll have Yago go through overall updates, and we can go from there.
Thanks very much, Englandia. Okay, so great to have another call with everyone today. We're going to be trying things a little bit different this time because more and more people are becoming involved, and there's a lot to cover. So what we're going to be trying to do, and this, again, subject to change, is start having our town hall once a week and having it be merged with the contributing team meeting. And so in a contributing team meeting, the primary thing that the team is trying to do is update each other on what they're working on and talk through the key issues. So we're going to try and merge that into this call today. So we'll start with an overall update, then we'll have the updates and discussion of the team leads, and then we'll end with a discussion on what's coming next and various actions. So what were some of the big things that we had over the course of the last week? Well, we had the TGE, so the system was launched just over a week ago. We've then introduced we've had several SIPs pass. So we've had a SIP to allow people to start converting their CSOV into SOV. And so there are now a large number of new SOV holders. And we also completed the Origin pre-deposit process, which was effectively also meant that we completed the Origin sale, because the pre-deposit demand substantially exceeded the potential amount that could even have been sold or offered on auction. And so if anyone has seen the updated SIP 6, we acknowledge this fact and propose to simply skip the auction, which would be a mere formality at this point, and move directly to distribution of SOV. So that could happen quite soon. In addition to that, there are a number of other things that we're currently working on. One is many of you are sort of OGs of the system. Not that the system has been around that long, but we already have a class of OGs, and you guys are already whitelisted to use the system and are actively trading, borrowing, and lending. Our goal is to increase the number of people who have access to the system for that purpose. And that means increasing the number of whitelisted addresses. One way that we are planning to do this is to allow everyone who's got above a certain threshold, probably it's going to be 50 or 100 SOV, to be automatically whitelisted. So that means that everyone who's a stakeholder in the project will be able to also use the platform freely. We also are going to be looking for a way for contributors to invite specific members. And then once we've done that, we're going to be looking for ways for whitelisted participants to start whitelisting their friends, basically allowing their friends to get early access to the system. Why do we have the whitelisting in the first place? Well, we've discussed this a few times, but just as a quick reminder, right now, there's more demand for funds to go into the system and trade than there is an easy way to get funds into the system. So we have a liquidity issue, which is primarily due to access and the limitations on the total amount of potential RBTC. We have a few solutions coming for that, and we expect to be rolling them out over the course of March and maybe early April. And so that brings, and until then, we expect to have whitelisting just so that the system doesn't become too unbalanced. So that brings me on to some of the chunkiest, coolest innovation that we are working on. As we mentioned, we already last time we had a call, we were expecting to have the Bitcoin peg, the new Bitcoin peg, on testnet, and the token bridge to Ethereum on testnet as well. That has now happened. Both of these systems are currently being tested on testnet and are getting closer to a situation where the community will be able to start testing them on testnet and then to a production launch on mainnet. Once that happens, it will create new use for SOV by allowing the staking of SOV for the peg. It will introduce more functionality, and most importantly, it will allow more Bitcoin onto the system. So we're very excited that that is moving forward, particularly because those were potentially high-risk, complicated projects, which, it's the kind of thing which very, very often gets kind of, you say, it's going to launch in 2016, and then it's only really launching in 2025. This is that kind of work, but it's being done by the team on time, and so we're it's making me less nervous, and the team really deserve kudos for being such beasts. We also have a number of new contributors. One of the things that we've really been excited about is that this community has been extremely giving from the get-go. I don't think I've ever enjoyed being part of a community more than, in fact, I know, because I've never enjoyed being part of a community, but I'm starting to enjoy being part of a community. And it's because of the nature of this community. No trolls, just people who are trying to be helpful, people who are answering, the questions of newbies. It's really a very giving community. But in addition, what we've really started to see now is more and more people volunteering, taking on responsibilities. So, for example, during Origin sale, people noticed that there was not as much information as a lot of people wanted, easily accessible. And so now there are a bunch of people who are working on a wiki. There are a bunch of people who are writing new documentation, a bunch of people who are documenting the code, a bunch of people creating videos about how to use wallets. And broadly, this isn't just on the content side. We've been seeing more and more people looking to contribute. One thing that I'd like to point out is Solbit has written a really cool request to be a contributing member, a paid contributing member to Sovryn in the Bounty channel. Go check it out. I think, first of all, he deserves our support. but also the way that he went about it and the way it was written up, I think, is exactly the type of thing that we should be looking to do as community members when we are looking to contribute, and in particular when we're looking to have paid contribution or a grant. We also have a lot of work on front end and wallet. So I'm sure you guys have noticed that we've been rolling out improvements to the front end. We are working on our own mobile wallet. We're working on our own direct integration with hardware wallets. So making the whole system much more user-friendly and easily accessible, which is, after liquidity, the most important thing for being able to drive adoption, making it really easy to onboard and getting to, the first 100,000 users, the first million users. And as I previously mentioned, there's just like a small dedicated special forces team right now working on content that have come together from the community, have met each other, been talking to each other, and have become involved. And so I think we'll start to see a lot more easily consumable content and educational content in particular coming out. I think I'm going to pause here. I got two big things that I wanted to discuss before we go into the teams. But I wanted to ask, I don't know if Stefan's here, but Stefan, if you are here, do you want to give a very high level, quick overview of our current timeline? Like near-term timeline? Yeah, maybe he's not on the call. All right. So two things I'd like to discuss. One is chaos, and the second is one of the biggest changes that we're sort of feature advances that are going to be coming to Sovryn. So chaos. I don't know how much sort of general community members are feeling this, but certainly the team of people who are dedicated contributors and are working around the clock on the project. I'm sure you guys have noticed that we are sort of constantly operating in a situation of what feels like chaos. And so for everyone on the call, I think it's important to understand that is something we're going to have to accept. We are in absolute face-melting hypergrowth right now. And when you're in face-melting hypergrowth, everything changes all the time. The team grows very, very fast. As a result, roles grow very fast. The ambition of the project changes and grows. The features and the rollouts and everything, just there's every single week, there's so many things happening, and everything interacts with everything else and changes everything else, and it feels like chaos. The important thing is that you have this dynamic equilibrium between accepting the chaos but being able to surf the chaos, which is really cool because we just had someone join us who's been helping a lot on this, who's called Exiled Surfer. So perfect person to help us surf the chaos. But the thing about surfing the chaos is that chaos is energy, chaos is power. And so the thing that you want to be able to do is to harness it. So one of the conversations that I've been seeing happen in some corners of the team or the chats right now is, people saying we need more procedures, we need to maybe slow down, and I completely disagree with that. I think we don't need more bureaucracy. We do need better processes, but those better processes should never be about slowing down. They should be about speeding up. In other words, if you improve your processes, the way you know you improve your processes is because you manage to speed out without sacrificing the most important thing, which is security. And so one of the things that we have been doing is adding more and more layers of audits, security processes have been growing as fast as the rest of the project, and I think that's exactly the way it should be done. But we've so far managed to make sure that that hasn't really slowed down development, and I think we should all be very, very proud of that. So that's what I have to say about chaos. Chaos is a ladder, and we need to climb that ladder. The second thing I want to talk about is the one of the biggest changes that is going to be coming to Sovryn. Already on testnet, we have a rollup, which basically allows us to get to a point where we can have near instant transactions at about 100th of the cost of the current transactions and do 4,000 more or less transactions per second. This obviously isn't fully working, but we have the first parts of it already on testnet. And we're trying to have this system basically ready by April. This will give users an experience much more similar to a centralized exchange in terms of speed without giving up their control over their keys or the security assurances of rolling up to the Bitcoin proof of work miners. And so it will really be the best of both worlds potentially. And the other thing is that it will allow us to add things like limit orders, stop loss orders, like much more sophisticated feature sets, which right now hardly exist or don't exist in DeFi. But, and this is a big and an important but that I think is really important that everyone in the community understand. It will mean moving our smart contracts, moving the Sovryn protocol to a different chain. Right? It's basically the same chain, but it's like a higher level of abstraction to the chain. So the right way to think about it is it's like a different chain. And there are two ways we can go about that. One is we basically have every single user do it themselves. Now, this can be an extremely confusing, time-consuming process where every single user have to move their funds themselves. And so it is an option. The other option is that we treat it almost like a hard fork, and then we would basically allow a SIP to go through with over 70% consensus, which would allow the protocol to move the funds for the users. So the reason I bring this up is because I think this is a really big deal. You don't want to have hard forks frequently, and for the same reason, you don't want to be moving users' funds, even if it's the protocol doing it, and the funds are just being given back to the user. You don't want to be doing those things lightly, and so I'm bringing it up now so that people are aware that this is on the roadmap, and it's probably and we should be looking to have a discussion about it for people to be aware of it. And for us to be examining all different aspects of it. So I'm gonna pause here. We're not gonna have community questions during the call at this point. We're going to continue with what is effectively the contributor part of the call. And so I'd like to start with Aurora. Would you like to catch us up on what's been happening with the Sorcerer team?
Of course. I mean, you already covered a lot of the development effort, but I will still just start and give a quick recap of what the dev team has been working on the past 2 weeks. I think the biggest update was the launch of our token, the TGE, and the Bitocracy 2.0. So Sovryn tokens are now available and can be staked to participate in governance. The Bitocracy system was even already in use, and there will be another vote today. Directly after this community call, or almost directly, 1 hour after the community call, we're going to start the vote on SIP 6, which is approving the origin pre-sale. And all of the Genesis sale investors amongst you can participate at the vote if you claim your vested SOV before the vote starts. So therefore, you can go to the wallet section of the dApp and claim your vested SOV, and then go to bitocracy.sovryn.app to vote on the origin pre-sale SIP. There was some confusion from Genesis participants, which have CSOV and claimed their vested SOV, and they could still see the CSOV in their wallet. This is no reason for concern. This is the expected behavior. What's happening is that the smart contract is reading your CSOV balance and is assigning you the appropriate amount of staked SOV. So the CSOV will remain in your wallet and they will be untransferable forever. So they are like a nice souvenir, but nothing more. Then, of course, there was the origin pre-deposit where a lot of you also participated. And I'm not talking about the pre-deposit itself, which raised 200 Bitcoin quite fast over the weekend, basically. And what I wanted to rather speak on is that with this pre-deposit, we improved our backend processes to detect Bitcoin deposits almost instantly. You might have realized that it usually just takes a couple of seconds until the deposit is recognized. And this is an improvement which is now also built into the new FastBTC. We are improving FastBTC to make it more secure and more robust so we can reactivate the top-ups. This is something most of you have been requesting, and most of the questions in the Discord are about how can I get RBTC. And so we are reactivating the top-ups to provide you a frictionless access to the system. And this will be on testnet sometime next week. And it would be great if you could help the testing before we put it to mainnet. There was also an issue with the RPC not working, which a lot of you also realized. And this is solved now. We added an auto-scaling load balancer to our node farm. So our nodes are now super robust and can take not only the load from the front end and the back end, but also from all of your wallets. So feel free to connect. And I would also advise you to connect even if the public node of RSK is working, just because when we move to a rollup later on, the migration for you will be more seamless. Apart from that, we improved our surveillance and analysis system, which helps us look into user-reported issues more efficiently and allows us to just have a better overview of the system and what's happening. And so we are more alerted and can easier make sure that nothing goes amiss. Then there was the talk of bridging. As Iago said, the FastBTC bridge is on testnet, and so is the Ethereum bridge. The Ethereum bridge is especially important for our Ethereum sale, which we are currently preparing, as we need to move Sovryn tokens to Ethereum and also the funds raised on Ethereum to RSK. We deployed the Arbitrum layer 2 contracts on the RSK testnet and are currently in the process of setting up the validator and aggregator infrastructure. So this should also be on the testing phase the next sprint. Apart from that, we have a couple of things in the review which are already built, like the affiliate system, which allows you to earn fees forever, basically, when you're referring new users. And the whitelisted flash loans, which a couple of you requested also. So if you would like to get early access to whitelisted flash loan functionality, let us know. Both are ready for testing on testnet next week, which brings me to the most important thing I would like to raise today. And this is that we really need a lot of help testing, and you guys have been amazing with testing so far. So if you could, we had the discussion before that we could set up a bounty system for testnet helpers. And I'm looking for volunteers who would like to specify how this bounty system should work. It should be some kind of automated, kind of manual process, which like maybe on a weekly basis, where we can have a set amount in SUV, which is distributed among the most helpful people. So if anybody here would like to take this on, please let me know. I think that this testing is so very important for us, and that anybody in the community who's investing time and helping us with the testing should be rewarded. And yes, I think that's it basically from my side. If anybody from the dev team would like to add something on this point, feel free to do so. If not, I will pass the word on to whoever wants to speak next. I think it's Slider.
Hi, Slider here. So I'm part of the adoption team. My role is to build awareness of Sovryn and build out our user base. With this goal in mind, Origin's sale was a great success from our point of view. We had over 3,000 Sovryn individuals participate, meaning that the design of the Origin sale worked to our goals, which were to build a decentralized community. On top of that, we had a further 17,000 people join our email list. So I have some metrics around that I wanted to share with you on a public link in the spirit of opening what we're doing out to the community. So I'm going to share that in the channels in Discord, and in there you can see our growth metrics on Discord, Twitter, Telegram, and with our email list. And we'll keep adding more data there as we get the time to do that. So for us, the next focus will be the public sale that we're officially calling the Evolution sale. So that's the grand reveal for today. So we'll be updating all of our materials to reflect that. And we're going to be kicking off the promotion for that over the next few days. Actually, the promotion has started. Some of you may have seen that we have ads running on Brave at the moment. So one of the strongest things that we have going for us is obviously the community. So here is where I attempt to enlist you to help us with our efforts. So obviously the combined noise of all of us is pretty powerful, and it's something we'd like to harness. Firstly, just by sharing our content, which we post in media links. So if you want to help to spread the word, and share the links in there with your networks, we would be very grateful. But also, Dragonly had a great idea to try and get trending on Twitter with our hashtag #StaySovryn. So the plan is that next week we'll set a day and a time, and we'll let you know when that is in the channels. And we would like to test our combined noise and see how much collective power we have to get our name out there. So I hope you'll all take part in that. And finally, I want to just thank the many of you that have come forward with offers of help. As Yargo mentioned, we have some well-needed help. We've had some well-needed help on our documentation and video content. But I'm still keen to hear from anyone who is interested in helping out on the forums. You would need a decent standing on Bitcoin Talk for this role, but if that sounds like you, then please DM me. And if you have any other proposal for how you'd like to help us, just let us know, and we'll slot you in. And that's it from me. I'm not sure who's next on the list, I'm afraid, but maybe somebody can pass that on for me.
I think I'm the next. Hi, everyone. Okay.
Dragonly, you already started. I think you can also go first.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Dragonly. First of all, I'd like to thank you everyone for all the support, all the patience, and being very cooperative. You are the great community, as Yago said before. Now, as you guys know, the SIP 5 has passed and everyone is able to claim their SOE. Community support is ready to help anyone in any way possible if they are having any problem converting CSOE to SOE. The process is pretty much self-explanatory, but still we have some video guides on how to claim your SOE. I will share the links in the group. I will make a pin post with that. I'm thinking to create a FAQ also in Sovryn forum with a step-by-step guide on how to do that. How much RBTC would you need in fees? And anything else, I will try to cover as much as possible. Uh, a little update about the community growth. We have now around 10,000 members in Telegram and Discord combined, and we are growing day by day. And redeem request will be processed shortly. Hopefully, they will be done today or tomorrow. Anyone who DM'd me and requested me to cancel their redeem will be taken care very soon as well. And that's it for me. Thank you, everyone.
Cool.
I
Can you
think
guys? Yeah.
Exile Server is next.
Yeah. You guys can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So yeah, the first thing that I want to talk about is chaos. Thanks for the shout out, Jaco, about surfing that. Yeah, I love this environment. My first big job in crypto was joining the Bitcoin Foundation as a system administrator about a couple of weeks before Mt. Gox collapsed, and went through all of that insane years in 2013 was basically my baptism in the space. And it hasn't really stopped since then, except for the last 2 years where everything was really not chaotic for me. It was boring and just not really incentivized. And what's been amazing in joining the Sovryn project is this is the energy that I've been looking for, that basically died off for me in Ethereum over the last year or two. There's a lot of stuff going on, but this sort of like crossover hybrid project that's happening with Sovryn is what excites me. We've been waiting a long time for this to come to Bitcoin, and now it's here. And in the last 6 months, this team has built an amazing working product on top of Bitcoin. So I'm very, very excited to be in the middle of this chaos, and all the team members that I've met so far are just so dedicated and just such good vibes, man. I want to give a shout out to this team that I've just joined with everything you guys have accomplished, man. So you guys are doing a good job in the chaos. So a couple of the initiatives that I've been working on since I got here. First of all, we're going to expand the universe, the comic universe of Sovryn. We've found some writers and collaborators to create a comic strip series, which we'll be using to promote and market Sovryn, and also to teach people. Expect to see some of the first results of that using Danny's work and a new writer from Spain. His name is Carlos Matis. Really cool. He's got a Spanish language crypto podcast called Crypto Birds. You guys might want to check out if you're Spanish language speakers. So that's pretty awesome. And the second thing is the wiki. We've got a live wiki now. It's wiki.sovryn.app, and that happened in the span of 48 hours. I want to give a big shout out to the team of Scotty G, Lord Commander, and Unicum. Man, you guys just kicked it out. It's all basic right now. It comes from content that Lord Commander has been working on over the last weeks. And then added to, we've got sections for basic users. We have some basic developer content up there. That'll be the go-to space where you'll be able to find out all of the technical details about Sovryn, about governance. We'll have FAQs there. We'll have tutorials. And so this is my ask to the community. If you're a good writer, if you're a good creator, you feel that you are fluent in what Sovryn is and also about crypto, reach out to us and join the wiki team. It's a small team at the moment, and we're looking to have people join the team and push out more content by the time the public sale comes. And look forward to interfacing with anybody who needs anything from me across the internal teams or in the public. Just reach out to me. I'm here to enable you in any way that I can.
Awesome.
That's
Thank
done.
you very much.
I'm done.
Thank you very much, Exiled. And then next up, Tsu, you wanted to discuss design and creative. If not, we'll skip to Armando on operations.
Sue might understand that you actually have to push to talk, not just hit the mic.
I think I need to unmute the channel first. He is not an admin, so we can't talk.
Tsu, you want to try again?
Hello, Sue.
All right. Let's shift to Armando in the Minto, and then we can come back to Tsu.
Yeah, can you guys hear me?
Yep.
Great. So hi, everyone. I've been focused on a lot of the backend operations over the last couple of weeks. What I'm focused on right now is exchange listings. And so right now I'm focused actually on centralized exchanges, even though we expect SOV to be trading not only on Sovryn, but on other DEXs. In line with the general philosophy of the project, we also believe it's important that we give SOV holders the ability to trade where they're currently trading. And there is the additional importance of having SOV on exchanges so that we can pull external price feeds, primarily for the new peg that will be deployed. So I expect over the course of the next week to continue this work. Anyone who's not on mute, please mute yourself. Thank you. Another piece of work that I'm doing, and we had a team meeting today, is about reviewing and performing a post-mortem both on the Genesis and Origin sales. There was a lot that went well. I think there was a lot that improved from one pre-sale to the next, both in terms of the technology that was deployed and in terms of incorporating the feedback from the community. However, there were still glitches. There were still places in which we need to improve, and so we did quite a comprehensive review on that, and we'll be working on incorporating those fixes both for the next sale and also in the governance flow in general.
Armando, are you guys planning to publish the results of that?
Yes, that should be sometime early next week. Lastly, I want to introduce Selena, who joined the team this week. Selena will be working on talent acquisition, finding and helping us recruit new talent to the team. In addition, Selena is going to be working on improving the onboarding process because there has been quite an influx of new contributors and people who are adding to the functionality of Sovryn, and we want that process to be much easier than it is today. We want people to have all the information they need in order to dive right in. And so I want to welcome Selena and let everyone know that with regards to understanding who's working on what, that's a big piece of work that we'll be undertaking over the next week. Lastly, I want to congratulate Ingemar on his great rap and hope he understands that he needs new verses every week now. So good luck. That's all from me. Thanks.
Awesome. Tsu, do you want to try one more time?
So you might have to go to user settings and under voice and audio, switch to voice activity rather than push to talk.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, hey. Okay, sorry about that. Didn't know what was going on there. Yeah, I'm Sue. I'm head of design and creative. We've got quite a small team. It's me and myself. It's Fine Line and Danu Bastidis. Basically Danny. So that's Fine Line's the a designer, and Danny is our illustrator. So for the last couple of weeks, we've been working on quite a lot of different things. We've been working on creating a new website to make everything a bit more easier to understand. We've been working on a design system for the DApp. And while doing that, we've been creating a style guide. This is something that I think a few members have been kind of requesting. So yeah, we're putting this together and hopefully it'll be done pretty soon. Please bear with us on this because we've got lots of other things that we need to work on as well. But once that has been done, it'll be a nice little package which you can download that has logos, illustrations, all the fonts, explains to you how to use the logo, what to do, what not to do. So that'll be quite straightforward. So what I've been designing the most recently is all the stuff that you've been using, like the Origin pre-sale interface, the CSOV conversion interface, and the SOV redemption interface. I'm hoping that you guys are finding it relatively straightforward to use. I've had quite a bit of feedback about the Origin cell, that more of a confirmation would have been nice. So I've taken that on board with anything else coming forward. I understand a lot of people might have had problems with wallets, but any feedback that you could give us on the actual process would be great. I've also been working on the trading interface, so there'll be hopefully a new trading interface coming soon, and the staking interface for when everything's liquid and you can stake your SOV. At the moment, you have a little vesting tab in your wallet, but soon there'll be a whole interface for staking as well. We've also been working on a Chinese New Year promotion. So Danny, our illustrator, has been creating these amazing illustrations every day. Today is the day of millet, so hopefully it's a fine day where you are, because if it's cloudy, it's going to be a bad crop this year. Other to that, we've been developing this Sovryn universe with Exiled Surfer, and yeah, looking really forward to what comes out of that. I think that's me done.
Они последние обсуждают, да? Ну, хорошо, понял. Слушай, сколько эта пара стоит?
Sergey, can you mute yourself, please?
Yeah, that was me, if that's all right with you lot.
Okay, cool. So before we get into more general Q&A and then into a discussion of the SIPs and upcoming action updates, I'd like to open the floor first to active contributors. If any of the active contributors have questions that they want to ask or things that they want to bring up between the different teams, things that they want to raise that are important that they noticed while the conversation was going for the purposes of coordination, now's a good time. And then we can open it up a little bit to the floor. Are there any other people from the team who would like to say? Any other people from the team who would like to raise anything? Victor, you want to talk about front end at all? Lights, do you want to talk about Glass Frog or SIPs?
Yeah, I can talk about some things. Let me see.
You just muted yourself. All right. Well, I think Light may be working on figuring out how to unmute himself. So in the meantime, are there any people from Dragonly? I just want to check if people want to speak
This
now.
push
They're
to
able
talk
to.
is kind of awkward in Discord. Sorry. Can you hear me? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can give some updates on the Bitocracy and governance side. So in the past couple of weeks, I published a couple of new documents in the forum for review. These are just draft documents. The first one is the new sovereign budget system, which aims to provide at least a short-term solution for budgeting and fund management among the team, the folks that are paid to work on the project. And then the second document is the sovereign improvement proposal process, which proposes a somewhat more formalized process for drafting, reviewing, and submitting SIPs for a vote by SOV holders. And then the second project that I've been working on is working on a new organization model for the team, which I'll be sharing more about next week. And the goal here is just to try to, as the team is growing, put a little bit of scaffolding in place that team members can grab onto and easily get oriented and begin working and coordinating and collaborating with each other with as little friction as possible. Getting started. Some other updates are about the SIPs. So you've heard about a couple of SIPs in this meeting. In the past, since the last meeting, SIP 5 and SIP 7 were passed. So SIPs 5 being approving the conversion of CSOV into SOV at a 1-to-1 ratio, and SIP 7 about setting up a new exchequer multi-sig to manage some of the redemptions from the earlier sales, as well as handling some funds for promotion and adoption purposes. So congrats to the authors of those SIPs on having those approved. Brief summary of priorities between now and the next meeting. So I'm going to be continuing to work on the new organization model that I mentioned. I have a plan to share and discuss this early next week. I want to start work on the sovereign Bitocracy constitution. This would be like kind of the base layer governance document for the sovereign protocol, so that SOV holders have a point of reference when they're thinking about what kind of proposals should be approved or should be rejected. I want to finalize the SIP process draft and prepare it for a vote. And I would like to also finalize the sovereign budget system that I mentioned earlier and put that into action. I think we can put that into action without a vote. At least we don't have to have SOV holders vote on that. But in terms of what I would love to have from the community during this time, I would basically like to have as many eyes as possible on the SIP process draft. If you have ever drafted an SIP or want to draft an SIP, or you're just generally interested in seeing the Bitocracy system work well, it would be great to get your eyes on the SIP process draft and please share any feedback, questions, concerns that you have about that. And same thing for the sovereign budget system. If you have any interest in requesting funds from the sovereign treasury or ensuring that the funds that are spent from the sovereign treasury are well spent, please do take a look at the sovereign budget system draft and offer any feedback, questions, concerns that you might have about that. And that is my update.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much, Light. Let's open this up to general questions about what we just heard. So not questions about, other things, but rather about progress or comments you might have, concerns you might have, things that you would like to do to get involved, just anything that we've discussed up until this point.
Hi, Yago. It's Whipper. How you doing, buddy?
How you doing, Whipper?
I just have a question with regards to what you mentioned at the beginning of the call with regards to maybe changing chains. Are we still going to be operating on the main RSK chain? Are you able to elaborate a little bit more about that change?
Yes, I actually am writing a fairly extensive document on that, which I think is probably going to take me at least another 2 weeks to complete. At this point in time, there's no plan to move away from RSK. The thing that we're doing is, so very briefly, you've got Bitcoin, which is the heart, right? And the Bitcoin miners, they generate the security for Bitcoin. What we're doing is we're leveraging the security of the Bitcoin chain. How? RSK is merge mined. In other words, RSK is mined by the Bitcoin miners as part of their process of mining Bitcoin. So you get very, very similar security assurances. And if 100% of the Bitcoin miners were doing this, and currently it's typically between 50 and 70%, you would get 100% of Bitcoin security level. Now, that said, trying to do everything on layer 1, even if the layer 1 is a side chain, is a recipe for going the way of Ethereum and ending up, when you become popular, with extremely high fees. No way around that. There's no chain which has been developed which doesn't face that problem. So what we're doing instead is we're taking the difficult, expensive part of transactions, which is processing the actual computation, right, for an interaction with a smart contract, off-chain entirely. And the way you do that is with a rollup. So what you do is you take the computation off-chain, you prove the computation, hash those proofs, and put them back onto, in this particular case, the RSK chain. What that allows you to do is have effectively very similar security assurances to the layer 1 chain, leverage the layer 1 chain, but not pollute it with massive amounts of computation. So what that basically does is it creates sort of like a chain which is secured entirely. It doesn't have its own security at all. It's completely secured by the Bitcoin miners merge mining, but all of the data, the unhashed data, it doesn't need to go onto that chain. Someone figure out who that is? There we go. Sorry, I'm server muting you. Yeah, so that's a brief explanation of what it is. But what it basically means is, and this is one of the reasons it's important for you guys to be using the Sovryn RPC rather than any other RPC, is because you need to be looking at the when you're operating, you need your system to be talking to the nodes of the rollup or the layer 2 chain, not the base chain. And so if you are already incorporating the Sovryn RPC into your wallets, then when the transition happens, you won't need to do anything at all. Did I answer your question?
Thank you. Perfect.
And yes. So I'll just give you
Eden.
guys a quick reminder. If you do what I just did, that's kind of like raising your hand, and it's the easiest way to get attention, and then I can try and talk to you. So who wanted to speak now?
Hey,
Light, are you trying to speak?
yes.
Yes.
Yes. Are you? So you mentioned that you'll have a document about that published in a couple of weeks. So I have some, or I'd love to, hear more about, the plan for the migration. I have some opinions about, what the question you asked about, having the protocol migrate funds versus, a manual migration. But I think the discussion is probably more in depth than we could have here. Will you be maybe starting a forum thread, or should we start a forum thread sooner rather than later to discuss that?
Yeah. So first of all, if anyone wants to start, like if you want to start a forum thread on it, feel free. I'm trying to write more like a deeper, my thoughts on it in a deeper way, but I think we can start engaging this question immediately, and feel free to raise it on the forum.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, since I don't see any other hands going up, I think we can move on, and then feel free, guys.
I have one. It's Whipper again. I have one question with regards to the token peg. I just want to confirm we're still going to be using RBTC as the main currency, because there's a lot of talk of the SOV token peg. I'm not really sure how that relates to the BTC peg. Could you elaborate on that?
Yeah, I don't know that we will be using RBTC as the main Bitcoin representation. And the primary reason is what we've constantly encountered, which is that it's extremely limited. And I also think, though this is more open to debate, that the peg that we're working to construct is more permissionless and more trustless. So I don't think anything's going to happen with the RBTC peg. It's not going to go away. But the idea is that there should be the ability to use, let's call it the sovereign peg, as a native asset, at least an equal footing with RBTC. And frankly, I would like to see more different kinds of pegs. The more we can drive people to compete in creating better pegs, the better our pegs will get over time.
Right. What then happens since there's such a small limited supply of SOV with regard, like if you get an explosion of demand, which probably is going to happen by the looks of it, how is that going to affect the overall peg with regards to, like the demand that comes in, since there's such a small limited amount of SOV at the beginning?
I think that's an excellent question, but I'll rephrase it. It's not a question of the amount of SOV, it's a question of the value of SOV. So at the beginning, you'll need to have more than 150% of the value of the BTC that's coming over collateralized in the form of SOV. And that will create substantial demand for SOV. And one of the things which I and other people are very concerned about is, can we meet that demand? Now, there's one very, very easy way for that demand to be met, and I think this might speak very well for the price of SOV going forward, is the basic laws of supply and demand say that we know that the supply of SOV is pretty much fixed, but the demand could be very, very significant. And so in that respect, the problem can take care of itself. Simply the price of SOV will appreciate until it reaches equilibrium with the demand. That said, there may be a degree to which people don't feel like the price of SOV can appreciate beyond a certain level, right? So like if the price of SOV was on par with Bitcoin, I think, if it was one SOV per Bitcoin, I think everyone would feel a little bit like maybe this is overpriced. So in the longer term, there's two primary things that we can and will be introducing. One is the ability to use other forms of collateral. So long as they are native and trustless, I think we can consider using other assets as collateral for the peg. The other thing is there is already work being done on changing the design and improving the design in such a way that you would be able to use fractional collateralization, because the system would be designed such that it's basically impossible to profitably steal or defect from the system, even if you only have at stake a fractional amount of the amount of Bitcoin, because you'd never be able to steal the Bitcoin. So so those are the two primary improvements that we expect, and I think both can happen over the course of, let's say, the next 6 months.
I have a question.
Thank you, Yogo.
Sure.
You said that the amount of SOV was pretty much set. What do you mean by that?
So there is a issuance schedule over the course of about 7 years. As you guys know, there's 100 million SOV that have been issued. Now, in theory, governance with a very high level of consensus, which would be over 70% consensus, can decide to issue more SOV. However, that is not something which is going to happen frequently or maybe ever. And the reason is, it basically would be the people who, you'd need to get 70% of the people who hold SOV to agree to dilute themselves. So there might be situations where that is obviously the right thing to do, and there would be a high degree of consensus. One of those situations, and I think this is where the Constitution comes in, is if it is agreed upon that if, due to an error in the protocol, users lose funds, that it would be permissible and, in fact, desirable to issue and sell or issue and provide them with SOV in order to cover losses. But other circumstances would be a much, much more uphill battle for the issuance of new SOV. So that issuance process means that we expect to have 5 million or fewer SOV freely circulating in the market in the first month, and about 10 million in month 6, for example. So that's pretty much fixed. That can't change. There could be a situation where governance changes the issuance, particularly of the adoption pool. But again, those sorts of decisions would require a SIP to go through. And so I think at this point, we should expect that the issuance will pretty much play out the way we expect it to.
Okay, cool.
Renat, I'm muting you. Any other questions before we go on? Yeah, I didn't see who that was because we have too many people in the room, so just feel free to speak. Okay, in that case, I'm gonna move on. So now we're getting to the discussion phase of the call, and we'll try and go through this relatively quickly. So one of the big things, one of the things which I've found really, really cool is there's a SIP called SIP8. SIP8 is a SIP which has several interesting things about it. First of all, it was written by a different community. It was written by the Immunify company, actually, who are a company who specialize in creating bug bounties for crypto projects and particularly DeFi projects. The fact that they felt that they were welcome enough here to come and propose a SIP is, I think, testament to how open and permissionless this project already is, and it is only becoming more so. The other interesting thing about it is what it is about. It's about creating a very substantial bug bounty for the project, which would also potentially mean that that a substantial amount of funds from the treasury would be allocated potentially to be paid out as bug bounties. The third interesting thing about it is that it is our most controversial SIP so far. And the reason it's been controversial is because the community, rightly, I think, are extremely pedantic and concerned when it comes to large outlays of treasury funds. They want to make sure that you guys want to make sure that you're getting maximum bang for the buck. People are protective of the treasury of the protocol. I think all of those things are great things. I have a personal opinion on this, which I've written about in the forum. I think that now is the time to try and get every single talented hacker in the world to attack our system mercilessly and pay them for the pain that they inflict upon the system. The amount of funds in the system right now are not huge. The maximum payout that I would suggest that we would have would be 10% of the funds that they could potentially exploit. And I think it would provide us all with a greater sense of confidence going forward when we have better liquidity and we have the roll up, and potentially we can start allowing for tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of users to be using the system at any given time, that their funds would be safe. So this is an important issue. I think you guys should take a look at it, and I think we should expedite it, because if this is something that we decide to do, the sooner we do it, the better, in terms of allowing us to discover any issues that might exist in the system, fix them quickly before there are substantial funds at risk. And then the second thing, which a lot of people have been asking about, is upcoming sales. So there's two important things to discuss here. One is there's the public sale, or as it is now called, Evolution Sale. Evolution Sale is planned to allow people to participate from the Ethereum network. In other words, they would connect to our DApp from Ethereum and be able to purchase SOV with WBTC or RenBTC. And the idea is that way we can take WBTC and RenBTC and bring it back home. We can bring it back to Bitcoin. The other thing is it would allow us to reach a much larger audience and a much larger pool of liquidity than what we've been tapping into up until now, because right now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the frictions of using our system are quite high. You have to figure out your own wallet. You have to figure out a whole bunch of stuff. This would introduce a whole other class of potential user to Sovryn. So a SIP is going to be written up about that. And we'll go through the regular process of you guys seeing that, and I think that's probably, we can probably target something like March 10th for that event. The second thing is strategic partnerships. So there are a number of we live in an ecosystem, right? Sovryn isn't the only thing in the world. There are other exchanges, other projects, other influential people. Some of whom have been reaching out to different members and saying, we would like to get involved, we'd like to take a position. So what we're trying to do is get them either collectively or individually to put together SIPs, or we will do it in collaboration with them. But the idea is to allow for a separate strategic round for those who can bring real value to the protocol. And one of the features that we've been discussing with them is that they would commit that all of the SOV that they purchased would be locked up and used for staking in the pig, helping to deal with the issue that Whipper raised, where we want to have substantial value, collateral value in the pig, so that as much Bitcoin as possible can be moved over to the system as seamlessly as possible. So those are two things on the sales side to pay attention to, and which might be interesting to you guys. So I'm just going to quickly go through those two things. One is SIP 8, which is potentially allocating $250,000 per critical bug. I personally think it should be $1 million. I think we should have an eye-popping amount that we're offering people who show us how we fucked up. before we actually do fuck up. And the second thing, token sales. Are there any questions, thoughts, comments, raps about that?
Hey, Yago, it's Whipper. I want to back you up on that. I completely agree with you, and I fully support that idea. There's been so many exploits that have happened to so many different projects in the past. I think putting up a nice size bounty like this will potentially, avoid any disastrous event in the future. So just as a Sovryn community member here, I just want to put forward my support for that.
Thanks very much, Whipper. I can only assume you're a very intelligent person since you're agreeing with me. Anyone else? Okay, cool. So then I'm going to move on to the final part of the conversation today, which is upcoming action items. And the most exciting, most important, most delicious action item is this. SIP6, which will allow us to distribute to people who have pre-deposited in Origin their SOV, grow our community, increase our treasury, and have more SOV stakeholders who can participate in our system is going to be voted on. And here's the kicker, right? We want as many people as possible to be able to participate and to actively participate in that vote. So the way the system works is it can only allow people to vote if they already have SOV when the vote is created. And so what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating the vote in about an hour after this call ends. So if you are a CSOV holder, the thing to do after this call ends is to go to the wallet, redeem your CSOV for SOV, and then go to bitocracy.sovryn.app and vote on whether or not you want to allow for SIP6 to pass. Okay? Now, this is, for many of you, it's going to be the first vote. I think it's an important vote. I think it would be great to see a high level of participation. And we've delayed SIP6 vote so that you guys can vote. Here's something else you should know. You can delegate your vote. So voting can take a lot of time, and it can take a lot of attention, to the different SIPs to know what to vote on. So you can go into the forum. And I would propose using Bitocracy channel for this, and you can propose an address. It doesn't even have to be the address with which you hold SOV. In fact, you could even do this without holding SOV, if I'm not mistaken. And if anyone thinks I am mistaken, correct me. But you can propose yourself as a delegate. You can say to the community, listen, guys, I will be I'll be paying attention. I have been a good member of good standing in this community and in other communities. And if you don't feel like you want to be bothered with every single SIP, you can delegate your vote to me, and I will vote in your favor. Now, anyone who does decide to delegate, you can always remove that delegation. You can always switch delegations. You can always vote by yourselves. At any time, except when an actual vote is happening, you can change who your delegate is, or even if you're delegating at all. But that's another thing to be paying attention to, because what we have been discussing is creating a way for delegates themselves to be paid by the protocol and effectively by the people who are delegating to them for the service of managing those votes, paying attention, being a good member, and a good representative. So those two important things to be aware of. Final thing. As I'm sure you guys have noticed and has come up several times during this call, our team of contributors, volunteered and paid, is growing rapidly. It's awesome, because otherwise we would be, struggling to do all of the things that we're doing. But overall, Armando spoke about Selena coming on board. We are going to be looking for and nurturing talent wherever it is in the world. However, there is one place that we particularly want to see talent from, and that place is here. So the number one place, and the place that we prioritize for bringing people onto the team, are people from within the community, people who have come up grassroots from the community. And the best way to become part of the contributing team is to start out as a volunteer, prove that you are engaged, get the other contributors to know you, and then, like Sol would propose, hey, actually, I'm spending a lot of time on this. I would like to be incentivized to do that. That is an open door, and will probably always remain an open door. So I encourage people who are interested in the project on a full-time, part-time, or whatever time basis to explore that option. Now, here are a few of the roles which we have noticed we need in particular right now. One is sort of a biz dev or partnerships role, someone who can help us connect with strategic partners, wallets, exchanges, etc. And so that's something that maybe one of you would like to consider. The other is growth. If you have a highly data-driven, quantitative, product management, growth-oriented background, come make sure that we go from 10,000 users to 100,000 users to 1 million users to 100 million users. The opportunity is amazing, and if you have the right skill set, you have the opportunity to move mountains here. Third thing, founders. What do I mean by founders? Sovryn is one project, but you can compete with Sovryn. You can complement Sovryn. You can work on some of the projects that we would like to see being built around the Sovryn ecosystem. If you have an idea, or even if you don't have an idea but have a lot of initiative, ping me, because we have a lot of ideas of cool things that would be extremely useful to build. And there's opportunities for grants or bounties around building things, and there are ways for us to support initiatives around the Sovryn ecosystem. Third, someone with a crypto background and a finance background who can help manage treasury, be a responsible person. Ideally, is someone who maybe, in another organization we would call him the gray hairs, right? Someone who can come and help make sure that the finances, the budgeting, the payments, all of that is happening smoothly. Very important role, especially from the perspective of transparency, so that everyone knows what is in the treasury, how it is being used for now and into the future. You've already heard substantial need for writers, educators, ambassadors. If you see a gap in the way that we're communicating and you're the right person to fill that gap, try and fill that gap. There's a million other gaps after that. And artists. Sovryn is sovereignty is something that is not for everyone in an easy way. All right, this is not a Coca-Cola. This is something for heroes, and Sovryn should be as inspiring as what it is trying to accomplish. And so that's why the visual aspect of Sovryn is I think so important. So if you would like to contribute to that, start with some memes, start with some comics, and then maybe you can get the dream job of being a full-time superhero comic person who creates a superhero book about an actual thing that is actually happening. So if you have any other ideas of how you can contribute, highly encouraged. And with that, I'm going to open the floor one more time to questions, and then we will bring this call to a close with one final extremely important call to action. So, guys, comments, questions, suggestions?
Can I just announce our poker tournament this Sunday?
Absolutely.
Hey guys, it's Whipper. Just a heads up, we've got our Sovryn Poker Tournament happening this Sunday, 1:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Free entry for all Sovryns. Come and play. It's fun. Win up to 50,000 sats.
Nice. Thank you.
Okay, should I close?
Yeah, let me just say one last thing. Yeah. I'm going to remind you guys, now is the time to go to your wallet, convert your CSOV over the next hour. All right. And then go to bitocracy.sovryn.app and make your voice heard. Over and out.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Yes, myself, Sam. I would
Hi,
like
Sam.
to. Yeah, I have a question. I'm a member of Blockchain Whispers community.
Yes. Awesome
Uh,
community.
yeah, D-man. Yeah. So just would like to know, like, I have deposited my BDC for this origin sale, right? So just have this question, like, when do we get SOV's token, or what is the further process? Because I'm not. Yeah, please.
So the first thing that needs to happen is that the current holders of SOV need to vote for SIP 6. If SIP 6 passes, then Aurora, you wanna give them line?
Yep. So SIP 6 is going to start in, well, let's say 40 minutes from now. And then there will be a 24-hour voting period where everybody who has SOV can actively vote. If the proposal passes, there will be a 2-day time lock because it is involving a token transfer. And this means that Monday at night, the proposal is ready for execution. And we hope to kick off the actual claiming process then on Tuesday.
Okay. So do I really need to do anything, or we can just sit and relax?
It's
You
called
will
being
need
patient.
But you will to claim. So there will be a button click for you to claim your SOV, but you will be informed. And I think we're going to also emails out to the original investors just so everybody knows. But also here on the Discord and the announcement channel, you will definitely see it.
Okay, so that means I must receive an email from you stating that I can claim my SOVs, and I can go and click it on the computer and I'll be getting my SOVs, correct?
Exactly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you.
Okay, cool. So I'll close this out. As much as I enjoy rapping for sovereign individuals, the floor is completely open if someone wants to share music of their own to kick off a community call next week. Just hit me up in Discord. People are doing this all, all the hard work. Wow. Who we articulate who is carving out the trail, we're finding freedom, dismantling what people know and understand about much to help us with and create more sovereign. Ciao.
Yeah. All right, guys. Meeting's officially over, but I will stay on for more questions, and maybe some other members of the team will as well.
Hey guys, Whipper here. Just have a question going back to the whole PEG discussion. Is it possible to have a scenario where we're using RBTC and SOV as forms of collateral? Or I'm just trying to...
Yes, I think that would be ideal. Yeah, I think we
Okay.
should have many different pegs so long as they meet basic standards of permissionlessness, trustlessness. Yeah. Because then you can have a competitive environment which allows pegs to, compete to improve.
Any updates with regards to, I know that there was talk and mention of the Keep and TBTC team. Has that made its way over to testnet? Any updates with regards to that?
It has made its way over to testnet. That's what we're currently working on. Yeah.
Very exciting.
It is, yeah. Any other questions, guys? Thoughts?
Yes, maybe I have a noob question. Sorry, but I just wanted to know your personal opinion, Yago, concerning, for example, all the noise we hear, the regulations, or for example, the IMF taking a close look to Bitcoin and the whole cryptocurrency topic. Does it scare you at all that one day this could be a major problem regarding regulators? And does it put any pressure on your timeline to get your product to the market very quickly?
I think that's a great question. I think it doesn't scare me with regards to Sovryn. I think Sovryn, the way we're constructing it, will be robust to any regulation because it's permissionless, decentralized, uncensorable. I think it is important that we grow the system as fast as possible, as you mentioned, because that way it becomes more established, more distributed and harder to take down. I think if there is any risk, it's probably risk to people like me who are particularly associated with the project. And so one of the most important things is making sure that if I get hit by a bus or by a regulator, the project will go on, and that is also true for Aurora, for Victor, for Armando, for Slider, for Jamie. For all of the team that are working on the project, that there should be no individual who is centrally important to the project, and no point of control which is central to the project. Thank you for your question.
Can I say something about that as well?
Sure.
So my opinion about this is that the banning of drugs, prostitution, arms sales, etc., have worked really well. It just doesn't work. Yeah, states have not been able to stop any of those things. There's just degrees of what is considered criminal, to what degree things get prosecuted. So I'm really not concerned about any of that. What I'm more concerned with is things like clean and dirty Bitcoin. And this is why I hate companies like BitPay and Coinbase. They're basically running up the regulatory compliance angle, and what they will eventually do in order to secure a monopoly position, not because there's anything intrinsically wrong or illegal about Bitcoin, is they'll try and say our Bitcoin is the only Bitcoin. These are the kind of things that will pollute crypto, and are the challenge. But I just literally technically don't see any way without shutting down the electricity grid and shutting down the communication grid and shooting satellites out of the sky that either Bitcoin or any decentralized cryptocurrency can be stopped.
Yeah, I agree with everything that Exiled said, and I think I think the reason that Sovryn is so important is because the big battle. For the last 10 years, we've had an amazing time. Like, the price has been going up. Regulators mostly ignored us. We've basically had the opportunity to do whatever we want. And that's starting to change because it's becoming a really big thing, and it's actually starting to become a threat to the status quo. So I think over the last 10 years, because we haven't really been challenged by external forces, we've kind of turned on each other. We've had a fight between BCH and BTC. We've had a fight between Ethereum and Ethereum Classic. We've had a fight between Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? And I think all of those things are going to become far less important in the future. And what we're going to realize is that we have a crypto community that needs to come together, because the real danger are all of the potential centralizing forces in crypto. Kraken, Coinbase, Binance, the regulators, Circle, even in a way Michael Saylor, right? And I love, all of these people are playing an important role, but there is the danger, Coinbase are about to IPO. They're going to have shareholders who are going to not have any interest in Bitcoin or freedom. They're going to have an interest in how do we try and squeeze out all forms of competition. And they're going to try and lobby the regulators to make that happen for them, which is why it's so important. The real reason we need to get Sovryn off the ground now is so that by the time that happens in a year or two, Sovryn is just you know, the obvious alternative, and everyone can switch in a moment.
You know, there's always so much concentration on what America does and that everybody follows America. And I think that we worry about that far, far, far too much. I'm really, as a born American, tired of our exceptionalism, tired of our viewpoint that we're the center of the world and that we can say that the way that the rest of the world works. If you look around, Bitcoin is being used in so many developing countries. I hate that word, third world countries, or basically people that are already experiencing the collapse of fiat. It's already working there. It already works for people and those things. I think that the threat is more when governments get into mining Bitcoin. Yeah, like we've seen Pakistan now. We hear about Iran. When governments start to being interested in mining Bitcoin, that's when we have to be concerned about the protocol getting changed. When people actually getting rubber hosed and and attacked for being core maintainers of the Bitcoin protocol. When state actors come in and start mining, that's where the real concern is. Otherwise, I really believe that there will always be jurisdictional arbitrage. There will always be an Isle of Wight, a Bahamas, a Luxembourg, a Switzerland, or wherever it is. There will always be a rogue financial nation which provides jurisdictional clarity for cryptocurrencies and for Bitcoin.
And I actually will say one last thing about this. I think that while the big risk is regulatory, it's also the big opportunity. I think the big end game for Sovryn is that the regulators do start squeezing. They do make it basically impossible for you to withdraw your funds from exchanges, or they make it very hard. They start ramping up the KYC. They start ramping up the taxes. They start introducing more capital controls. I think, you know, what's happening right now is Bitcoin is going to the moon and beyond because the regulators have gone too far with their money printing. The government, the Federal Reserve, the central banks have gone too far with their power. They're abusing it too much, and so even corporates and municipalities and the most status quo organizations are realizing that they have to get out, and so they're getting into Bitcoin. Well, that's going to happen again. There's going to be another cycle of that. There's going to be a cycle where people are like, we can't use these exchanges. We're going to completely lose control. We're going to be completely taxed. We're going to have our funds potentially confiscated. We're going to have our personal information spread and hacked and distributed to various types of law enforcement. We're going to lose the ability to transact as we want. And what's going to happen is, in the same way that everyone's escaping from fiat into Bitcoin, people are going to escape from centralized fiat, centralized finance into decentralized finance, and what that means is I think they'll escape into Sovryn.
So on the end of that, you know, we're so in the middle of this bull cycle right now with orange coin go up that people forget about money print to go brrr. We really haven't even seen the results of all of this quantitative easing. And we literally, I mean, I've always said that cryptocurrencies are the cypherpunk, you know, apocalyptic cult. It's sort of like dependent on everything, so it's sort of collapsing. We really haven't seen the results of all of this money printing. And we're still years away from really seeing that. And literally, we can be talking about the collapse of countries that we would never expect to have collapsed. We can be talking about complete redrawing of borders. We can really be looking down the barrel of civilizational collapse here with the areas that we're in. So there's so much that's left out to play. We're so early in this game. And the reason I mention that is that I'm not convinced that states will be in the place to regulate this type of transaction. I do believe that we're smarter. and faster.
So that was a pretty good question. Any others? You can also just make comments or suggest things. This is us working together. We're a team here, so it's not just an AMA. It's like,
hey guys, it's Whipper again. I can't help to notice, and I'm sure everyone else has been noticing the amount of explosive activity that's happening on Binance chain, and I think it just goes to show just how many issues there are with the Ethereum chain in general. And I think the fact that Sovryn is doing what it's doing is opening doors of unbelievable potential. I just think that like if you look at Binance Smart Chain just as a small example of how explosive a chain can blow up, just because people are so fed up of the congestion. Wait till you see what happens with Sovryn when you get the Bitcoin backing. It's just unbelievable. It's great to be part of this project.
Well, like Udi Wertheimer said, he predicted a long time ago that a centralized fork of Ethereum would kick Ethereum's ass, and he was very prescient about that. Come on, you guys, don't lurk. There's a lot of people in this channel. There's got to be a lot of questions or a lot of people who want to have something to say about Sovryn.
Hello, can you hear me?
We can.
Yes, I would just like to add, this is Scott. I'm actually part of the wiki team, and I would just like to throw out there, anybody that would like to contribute some content, maybe there's an area that you've got some experience in with the Sovryn platform, even if it was your experience through onboarding, perhaps a different wallet that you might have used, Nifty or Liquidity rather, I'm sorry. Any sort of content that you think might be useful to others, any knowledge you might have that might be useful to others, I would encourage you to maybe jot some of that down, write something that might explain what your, the step-by-step process that you may have gone through, or if there's an area that you feel that you can contribute to. I'd love for you to pass that information along to me so we can add it to our wiki project. So hopefully we'll have some of you that will take the initiative to write something, put something together, so that we can continue to build the wiki to help support our community as we grow.
Thanks very much, Scotty. What you've been doing is awesome.
As an addition to the Scotty's points, people who can translate into languages that we do support in this Discord may write to me, IPM to Unicum, and maybe we can start translating things we do for the wiki as well.
Yeah, excellent point. I forgot to mention that, actually. We set it up for the multi-language support, and I totally dropped the ball.
Danny, you wanted to say something? No. All right, guys. I think we should wrap this up then. Anyone who wants to stay is welcome to. But I think this has been maybe we've covered everything this time. So that's awesome. Thanks everyone for joining. And have a great weekend. And don't forget to vote. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Thanks, everybody.
Bye, all.
Hello. Hello.
Hello.